I want to welcome everyone to the Live Well Kalkaska Substance Free Coalition's Coffee with the Coalition Forum. This is an open and informal discussion about substance use disorders and related topics and concerns within the Kalkaska community and Northern Michigan. And I'd like everybody except for our guest speakers to introduce themselves. Sean?
I'm Sean O'Connor. I'm the public health educator for Crawford and Kalkaska County.
Thanks for being here. John?
John Supernaw. I am a peer recovery coach with Catholic Human Services. I also take on the role of kind of community outreach point person. So I'm part of a number of coalitions in the area. And that'll probably do it.
All right. Dave?
Dave McGraham. I'm with the Northern Michigan Opioid Response Consortium, and I'm a member of several coalitions in Grand Traverse County.
Donna?
Hi, I'm Donna Norkley, and I'm with District Health Department 10, and I coordinate the Reduce Stigma Regarding Substance Use Disorders Action Team,
which our coalition is a part of. And I'm Suzanne Prentice. I'm the coordinator of the Live Well Kalkaska Substance Free Coalition and the prevention specialist for Kalkaska County. And I'd like to introduce Donna Hardees and Linda Rakowski. They are certified prevention specialists with Catholic Human Services Up North Prevention, and they're here to talk about the importance of prevention programs and what they offer through Up North Prevention. Go ahead, Donna and Linda.
Well, good morning. Nice to see everybody here this morning. And we by far do not have the snow that you guys have on that side of the state. I actually am over in Montmorency County. So just a little west of Alpena County. But as she mentioned, I'm a certified prevention specialist. I've actually been with Catholic Human Services Up North Prevention, going into my 14th year. And I am currently one of the administrators, not administrators, but one of the supervisors for prevention. So, we'll get into the gamut of prevention in the counties that we covered normally. Lauren Reed would probably be here talking about Up North Prevention because she's with Grand Traverse County and the supervisor for the western side of the state, but she is enjoying and basking in her last couple of days of maternity leave and actually returns to work on Monday. So you get me filling in a bit, and Linda and I will sort of tag team it. I'm going to have to bow out a little early. My aunt passed away, so I have to go to the funeral. So I'm probably going to step off about 9:30, and Linda will go from there. But that's me. I primarily am over on the eastern central region, and we'll cover some of that in a bit. I'll let Linda introduce herself, but good morning to everyone.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Linda Rutkowski, and I too am a prevention specialist with Catholic Human Services. I haven't been around quite as long as Donna, but going on about 10 years now. And I've worked in Sheboygan, Otsego, and Crawford County. Right now, I'm primarily working in Crawford County, and I also administer the SINAR Tobacco Compliance Program for 14 counties in Northern Michigan. And if you are not familiar with the SINAR program, it's a federal program that began in the early 90s. And at that time, a congressman named Mike Sinar introduced legislation that was passed that tied each state receiving their federal block grant funds for substance abuse prevention and treatment programs to the state proving that they were in compliance with the Youth Tobacco Act. And there have been some changes in the last few years with the Youth Tobacco Act. In 2020, President Trump signed federal legislation that increased the age to purchase tobacco products, nicotine products, to 21. And this past year, kind of lost track of time, Governor Whitmer signed it into law in the state of Michigan to make it a state law also, that the age to purchase tobacco products was increased to 21. So it's a program that's administered every year in the spring. And I'm happy to say last year, our state was way under the 20% sales rate. So we are set for another year. We were over the 20% mark the previous fiscal year. And so this was kind of a stressful year for making sure that all of the program was followed to the letter to ensure that we would be in compliance as a state to continue receiving our federal block grant funds. And that's the fun part of my job. So, and as Donna and I are presenting, please feel free to ask questions as we're going through. We're going to cover a lot of stuff, I imagine, and we want to make sure that there's good understanding of what we're sharing. So thank you.
And I guess just to, follow up on that with Linda, if there's any type of question, wondering if something's offered in your county when we talk about that, or your region, please just ask, or, any question you might have to kick off anything. We'll entertain questions to just go through that, because I know this is, fairly informal here, and we just like to keep it, very interactive, because it's, flows a whole lot more if you guys have questions or wonder about things. Suzanne, can you give a share screen option?
Yep. There you go.
All right. So what I'm going to do is, first off, direct us. And of course, just like with anything else, hang on, I need to get back here. Just with anything else, our website probably could stand to be updated, but we did redo our website a couple of years ago. So this is the easiest way for anybody to access information or find something out about what we're doing. And really where I wanted to go, I think the thing that we're most proud of is we put some real effort in this year to have all of our staff people do some blogs. So this gives up-to-date information about everything going on. Some of our certified prevention staff people highlight some activities that they've done this last month within there, and then you can see some of the archive information. So going through that, I guess what I wanted to do is just give a little bit about, what we are, who we are. And I mentioned that I'm employed. We are all employed by Catholic Human Services. So people sometimes wonder, well, what is Up North Prevention? What is the tie with Catholic Human Services? So part of the thing that had helped, love the organization that we work for and very proud of it. But sometimes, especially when dealing with schools, there always was that sort of, well, that's okay. I'm not Catholic. I'm not doing that. So we started an initiative. Catholic Human Services just did an initiative, an umbrella initiative. And, we are Catholic Human Services, so that we can provide services under this umbrella to ensure that people's needs are being met in the prevention realm. So when we talked about being a certified prevention specialist, someone always wonders what that is about. So we go through 2 years of background and training for our certification, and we're certified through MCBAP, the certification entity within the state for addiction professionals. So all of our staff that we have, unless they're part-time, working very specifically focused on a product, are either in the process of a development plan or have met the criteria of their certification and are certified prevention specialists. So I was trying to get down to just see our map. Sorry about the busy thing. Now, this isn't the site with our map, but I'll give you some of our staff. So we currently in prevention have full and part-time individuals. We cover 14 counties throughout northern Michigan. So basically, we're looking at 55 and up, except for the Antrim, Charlevoix, Emmett counties up in the western side. But so we have prevention staff in Alcona County. So we actually have a new staff person. Les Thomas is covering Alcona County. We've had, some changes in there. Alpena, Sheboygan, Crawford, Grand Traverse, Iosco, Kalkaska, Leelanau, Montmorency, Ogama, Oscoda, Otsego, Presqu'Isle, and Roscommon counties. Those are the 14 counties. So currently, we do have, I think we are at 22 individuals working in prevention within Catholic Human Services in our full-time and part-time roles. Some of our part-time roles are something that very similar to how Suzanne started with our organization. She had established the Live Well Kalkaska Coalition on her own, just as a volunteer entity, and was working with a past staff person of ours, Lisa Anderson, and it sort of morphed into increasing her volunteer capacity, and then we obtained some funding through our PHIP memory in what they call liquor tax dollars, and their PA2 to assist in the growth of the Live Well Kalkaska. And this is how it's morphed into Suzanne ending up becoming a full-time employee with us. So a lot of funding opportunities. And right now our prevention budget, with the number of grants that we currently have, I think when I started with the organization 14 years ago, we had 3.5 individuals working in prevention. Again, we're now over the 20 mark, 20 plus individuals in different aspects. And each staff person was responsible for a minimum of 3 counties. The way when Linda talked about the federal, block grant, the state block grant dollars that we get. So when I started, I worked in Alpena, Montmorency, Alcona, a little bit in Presqu'Isle. And so you would have a staff person try to provide prevention services in 3 to 4 counties in order to make a full-time equivalent. So the beauty of our organization is they allow us to be a little creative and go after various grant dollars and other funding opportunities. And so, we have definitely utilized on that. A lot of our funding does come from memory, our, PHIP, but right now we have a couple of grants starting with Michigan State Police with the COSUP grant. We have our PA2, we've done Prevention Network, we've utilized SOAR dollars, COVID dollars, ARPA dollars through a number of funding sources. So I think our budget right now is over the $2 million mark. And when I started, it was probably 390,000 was what we had done. So we've grown, and what we really established was the need that one individual trying to service, and those of you that work for the health department, and Dave understands with NMORC, that when you're trying to service 3 or 4 counties, you can't do it very well. You're just coming in with some very minimal information going through there. So that's been our ultimate goal, is to try and get a full-time staff person in each county. And then, like Grand Traverse, we're at the equivalent of 1.5 staff people. So there are just a few counties. I think Crawford, we're not quite, well, we might be close to a full-time equivalent in Crawford County, but that really has been our ultimate goal, is to ensure that we have adequate staffing, because what we have seen is some of our lowest population counties, Kalkaska would be a great example of that, is that our lowest population counties have the lowest financial opportunity, but the highest risk for substance use disorders. We're seeing that. So it really is this double-edged sword. The smallest counties probably need the most attention because of, some of the risk factors that they have in them. So we're very proud of, the growth that we have accomplished. So let's see. Any questions? Anybody? You don't want to listen to me talk, I'm sure. Yeah, John, was that a question?
Yeah, just really out of curiosity, because I'm from Charlevoix.
Yep.
And I noticed it's not just with Up North's prevention, but a lot of other groups in the recovery community cover, most of the tip of the MIP. They don't cover Charlevoix and Emmett County. Is there a reason for that?
Well, what has happened in the prevention aspect, counties come up for competitive bid. Every 3 years, NEMRI puts a county up for competitive bid. And so the western counties are actually going to be up it's central this year. So next year will be the western counties. What NEMRI has done, let me sort of see if I can find the map here on my page froze, I think. I want to see if they have the map pulled up. No, they don't have it pulled up. But basically what has happened with NEMRI covers the 21 counties in northern Michigan. And so every 3 years, they've divided that 7 counties up that they put up for competitive bid. So Charlevoix, Emmett, and Antrim have for prevention services, it's been the Health Department of Northwest. That's what they're called, the Health Department of Northwest Michigan, isn't it? They receive the prevention contract for those services. And that's what happens in some of the other ones. So, as well as, some of the counseling services, depending where they're at and who holds the contract through NEMRI to provide some of those services. So in Charlevoix, Emmett and Antrim, prevention is provided by Northwest Michigan Health Department.
Gotcha. Thank you. That makes sense.
Yeah. So this year, as I mentioned, the central counties are up. So that's going to be Sheboygan, Otsego, Crawford, Roscommon, those are the only 4 that we bid on, because Misaki and Benzie are in there. I think it's the health department, District Health Department number 10 holds the prevention contract in Misaki Wexford, correct? That's where Angie works, and she's out of there. So anybody that is a licensed provider can bid for these contracts when they come up every year. It has just happened that CHS has, gone after those. And because with some of our partnerships, because the Health Department 10 does a great job in Wexford, Misaki, we don't ever bid on those. They've got services there. They're going through Health Department of Northwest Michigan. We haven't bid on those. We know they're they're very ingrained in their community, have successful programs going on. To come in and undercut something, we try to sort of play nice in the sandbox kind of thing. When you have situations, like what's going on right now, nobody, the last time the Western contracts were up, nobody bid on Benzie and Manistee. They're vacant. There's no prevention being provided in those two counties currently because nobody bid on those contracts. And the way NEMRI has done it, because we wanted to try and bid on those, but NEMRI kept it in the cycle. They will be up in 25 for fiscal year 25. So they will try to solicit interest to go through there. What I will say is we all need to be advocates right now for prevention. And the thing that I can ask of most of you is to contact your legislators and start this discussion. This fiscal year, and luckily we had great opportunities, and MORC has been helpful. They've provided some funding, for a couple of projects we have in some of our counties. As I said, this new COSUP grant, we've had Prevention Network grants, COVID, ARPA, etc. This year, we took in our block grant funding a 33% cut. And so for us across 14 counties, that was significant. And again, what we found is those very high risk communities like Montmorency County. I'll use it as an example. It's my county. Historically, and Kara Steinke has been with our agency for 25 years. We have received, it's been the same amount of prevention block grant funding for 25 years. Montmorency County received $16,000. I think Kalkaska receives $18,000. But because of census data and looking at it, in the past, NEMRI had tried to supplement that funding through some of the other funding sources they had gotten. And this year, they just were keeping everything straight in each of its, buckets. So Montmorency County went from 16,000. I now have $7,800 available to provide prevention services in Montmorency County. So you tell me how much prevention you're going to get for that. So all I can say to any of you, if prevention is important and you have access to legislators, that we need to change this. The other thing that you're going to see happen in the SUD world is we're losing COVID dollars in February, the end of February, March 14th, I believe is the actual date. We're losing COVID dollars. ARPA dollars are going to be going away. SOAR dollars are going away. So there's a potential risk that you're going to see throughout northern Michigan. We're going to suffer. You're going to see our SUD, some of our peer recovery coaches, you talk about John there and different individuals, peer recovery coaches, some of those dollars, that we had through COVID, through other sources, those pots of money are being eliminated. So we're trying to get very creative on our end and look at, it's really been a goal and a mission of CHS, its board, its administration, is to try and ensure that our funding sources are not coming all out of one pot, because you see that happen. And right now, with what we're seeing at the state and federal levels, we have to be advocates. We need to be supporting NMORC. We need to make sure we have this unified voice in northern Michigan, that we're going to ensure that these resources stay in our community and the need is there. Just like Suzanne, you guys are at her meetings. You see what she's doing, what's going on, the benefits and the growth that coalition has experienced. And we have to try and fund her out of 4 different funding sources right now to make a full-time position. And I know a lot of us experience that, but we have to get creative in our partnerships and, how we provide those. I didn't really mean to get on a political rant here, but I mean, I think everybody needs to be aware that we need to be advocates for our communities and for the services that are so desperately needed. So before I have to bow out, I probably should talk about some of the services that we do. So coalition work, that is huge. Nemry had put a big emphasis that each of our communities should have its own very active substance-free coalition. So, you have the one in Grand Traverse County that Lauren operates, you have Suzanne. So we are working diligently, and I think out of 14 counties we provide prevention services in, I believe 12 of our counties have a specific substance-free coalition of some sort. A couple are still working with their local collaborative body and have prevention in the forefront, but it's not a true substance-free coalition. But of the 14 that we provide, there are 12 in there, in those counties. So they're very active. You see the things going on in Kalkaska. So that's one way that individuals can get involved, is go to our website, check out our coalition pages, who the contact or the staff person is. The other thing that we do a whole lot of, and Linda's going to get into some of the nitty gritty of some of the services we offer virtually now that, have been very successful, but a lot that gamut as you've gone back and forth. When I very first started in prevention 14 years ago, we were doing a lot of direct service work in schools. That gamut sort of shifted. And those of you that have been around a while see how those things, cycle back and forth. It then had turned to community organizing, a lot with the opioid, epidemic. We went to a lot of community organizing, trying to educate individuals, a lot of media campaigns going through. That gamut has gone back after COVID, that the need is so great to have more services in the schools for youth, that we're really doing that. So the last couple of years, in our coalition work, we've also been then developing youth coalitions. So I would say right now in the 14 counties that we cover, I think 9 of them have very active youth coalitions going on, that, we're trying to get the youth to learn their voices and begin advocating for themselves and offer more opportunities for themselves and their peers of substance-free activities, how to interact, who to go to with questions, when they're struggling, which gets us back to some of the, direct media work, and Suzanne can, talk about some of the things she does in the schools. But Nemry requests that any programming that we do be evidence-based programming. So we deliver a number of curriculums in the schools that are evidence-based curriculums going through. So Linda will go in more in depth, but we have, BOTVINs. We've done Protecting You, Protecting Me. We do Guiding Good Choices is more of an adult, a parent curriculum. But so in the schools, BOTVINs, we're doing some smart recovery for youth. Let's see, the in-depth program. And then we do a lot of very specific sort of one-time presentations when the school has a request. We have a huge vaping problem. What do we do? So ultimately, I see Sean shaking his head. So we do partner a lot with our local health departments, because they're also in the school right now doing some of that same type of education. But we will do specific, one-time presentations, ensuring that it's, from a reliable source. We follow a Stanford Vape, different things. But we'll do one-time presentations on marijuana, on vaping, We get a lot of requests from schools on bullying, different kinds of information. That's why we really like the Botvens curriculum, because it covers a gamut of self-esteem, refusal skills, general information about, we use a lot of acronyms in prevention: ATOD, alcohol, tobacco, other drugs, so we go through there and we're in the schools, and what we have seen post-COVID is they will take anything we can give them. They are, struggling so much. That's where these youth coalitions and these youth types of things have become huge, because they're just like, we don't know how to help, as we've, dealt with our opioid epidemic. We have seen the kids with a vaping epidemic. Every school has that issue. How do we go? And then the next thing that we're struggling with in our prevention world is these kids now need to quit. They've become addicted to nicotine. And what services do we have available? Some of those things where your hands get tied right now from the state, we cannot use block grant dollars to do any type of cessation work. They can't use any of that funding for that. So we have to find opportunities that are evidence-based, but it's not a cessation program, that we can assist these kids. Where do we turn to? What services do we have, available? Ultimately, of course, we'd love these kids to never start and not go through that. But we know with the experimentation phase with youth and teenagers, and it's never going to happen to me, that's a big concern, so those are some of the things. And, I'm going to let Linda we also, within prevention, because we have so many staff people now, we have individuals sort of take a lead on some of the programming, and Linda ends up being a lead with a lot of our direct education services, especially for virtual opportunities. Because not only have we seen in schools that they want the prevention information, come in, talk to the kids, get that dialogue going, get them feeling comfortable so they can share some of their concerns, whatever that may be. But what schools have also dealt with is a restorative justice type aspect. Like, wait a second, I got a kid caught vaping. They're on the basketball team. It's their second or third offense. How we know we need to keep them engaged in school and engaged in sports and a variety of other things. How do we provide them education and not have them in out of school suspension? So a lot of schools you'll see will say, all right, if you do some education, we will either lessen your out of school suspension or, lessen some of that. And I just lost the word, punitive type damages for that. So that's another niche that we have tried, to provide those services to schools. And sometimes that virtual option is great because we can then run a class from different counties, communities, and the kids just Zoom in after school and they can meet that need. We also ensure that our staff are trained in the same programs locally. And if schools do want that in-person option, we have that available. But sometimes those virtual options are very nice for an immediate type of class opportunity. And so that's where Linda has really been beneficial in what she's offered in that restorative justice aspect. All right, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to have to pop off in a minute. But any questions about things going on in communities? Yeah, Dave.
Tell me a little bit about how you interact with school counselors.
Okay.
I mean,
schools
their
that
roles are a
have
little
counselors, so I mean, Linda can probably deal with that. because she interacts with a number of them. I know, like in our area, what we do is we go in and try to have some education, like in-service days, different kinds of things. Here we are, we're available. These are the services we have to offer. If you want to make a referral, this is how you do it. We do it with counselors. We do it with, probation, judicial representatives. But, and Dave can probably highlight on one of the partnerships we have with NMORC with naloxone in the schools. So, that had been a big thing, and NMORC has been a great partner, ensuring that if we can't do that outreach, they can do the outreach and ensuring that, we have naloxone available. But I would say, Dave, now we have out of our 21 counties, we probably have naloxone in almost every school, don't we?
No, we have a couple of
No?
counties that we haven't penetrated very well.
Okay. Because I
like
think most of
Claire,
ours
yeah.
through Up North Prevention, we do have naloxone in schools.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
There's some holdouts,
Yeah.
some superintendents that I haven't been able to get a hold of. Other question for you, Donna and Linda. So do you have set times every week that you're in the schools and available, or do you go in ad hoc when they call you?
It depends on the school. That is an individual community relationship. Like right now, I'll use Alpena as an example. Alpena found the services so beneficial. We have Chet Spencer is our prevention specialist, and he is in the school 2 to 3 days a week. They just want him there. They've provided him with an office, and he does a lot of the restorative justice education components there, and they've utilized the services that way. If they have a vaping violation, if they've had some behaviorals and they need a Prime for Life class or a Botvin's class in a small group setting, it's done that way. I think in Suzanne's situation.
I can talk on that. Yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
So I'm in the Kalkaska High School once a week, offering. Right now we're doing Natural High with CAP class, which is the Kalkaska Alternative Program. And then we're in the schools usually once a month. We set up a table. We have our popcorn machine. We'll do surveys. We'll talk to the kids, just be a positive influence. We do that in Kalkaska High School, and we just recently started in Forest Area, and we are offering classes in Forest Area. We have one teacher that's interested in having us come in during their advisory time. We've been in a lot of the even the elementary schools and the middle school during Red Ribbon Week, and we've been invited back to the middle school to set up during parent time. We've offered different assemblies throughout the school year. We try to do 2 to 3 assemblies a year to provide education. I'm pretty much at the Kalkaska High School principal's disposal, whatever she wants me to do. She's talked about putting a office in the school for me to sit there while I'm doing other things in case kids want to talk. But I'm usually walking into the school a few times a week. So.
Yeah. Last question. So, I mean, I know you use a Botvin approach or whatever approach, but my understanding is that's usually with a group of students having problems or having issues. Is there any discussion about, or am I not correct on that? And I guess my next question is there any possibility, or are the schools looking at, say, in their health curriculums, having standardized programs like Botvin where all the students learn about it rather than select or targeted students?
Right. We deliver a lot of the delivery of Botvins. We do it 2 different ways. The way I have always done it historically, I would do it in a universal approach, just like you talked about in the classroom. And we keep delivered 3rd grade to 12th grade. And so we can do it to universal audiences or selected audiences, if it's a small group setting or an individual. But what we try to do for fidelity to the program, our ultimate goal would be, like in Alpena, for 15 years, we delivered it to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, year after year after year, consistency, fidelity to the program. Sometimes, and the health department will probably, concur here, you take what you can get to fit it in. If there are health classes, usually what would happen with me is they would incorporate the buttons into their health class. So when they were going through the Michigan model and some of those topics, they would just have me come in as the guest speaker and deliver the buttons program to meet that criteria within Michigan model. And we would go, through that and deliver it that way. So we provide it in both ways. We would love the universal approach and be able to hit those kids and then be able to work with the selective audiences that, need more complements to that, a little more information. So our first approach is we try to go in and do the universal delivery of buttons. And if they don't have time, then we will say, well, we can come in and at least talk about your ATOD topics. Let us be the guest speakers to talk about those things or some of these restorative justice, items. But
Thanks.
all right, I'm going to bow out and let Linda go. And I apologize. And thanks for listening to me babble. But
Thanks,
bye.
Anna. That I forgot to mention, Dave. We do the vaping class it's kind of a restorative justice too at Kalkaska. So if Stacy calls us in to work with a group of kids that might have been caught vaping or something, so they can go to different events and everything. And our CAP class isn't always behavior. Sometimes it's grades. So it's not necessarily a behavior problem in our alternative program.
So Dave, did you get your questions answered there?
I did. Thank you.
Okay. And any other questions before we get started that you might have from what Donna shared?
So maybe one more question.
Okay.
If, say, Botvin is part of a school curriculum, like how many hours of teaching time is that?
Well, Botvins is probably one of the most flexible evidence-based programs out there as far as prevention goes. It's really a life skills program. And Donna made reference to fidelity to the program. And ideally, the program is designed to have a minimum of 8 lessons, 8 one-hour lessons on 8 different topics, given over a period of time, ideally 8 weeks, 1 lesson a week, for 3 consecutive years. So to follow strict fidelity to the program, it would need to be administered in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade for 8 weeks each year. However, Botvins also allows for individual lessons, so that if someone was demonstrating high-risk behavior related to the way they were talking to people, not being able to communicate effectively, Botvins allows for a lesson on communication skills with this child. So it can be an hour. If you do all of the lessons, it would be 12 lessons, all the lessons that come with each of the programs. And I've only seen the programs from 3rd to 9th grade, but I understand that it goes down to 1st grade and continues through high school. So it just depends on what the goal is, I guess. And if you're dealing with a universal audience in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade English class or health class, or if you're dealing with someone who's already demonstrated high-risk behavior and you're just focusing on one area.
Thanks.
Donna made mention to our virtual training classes that we offered, our education classes, and this was a product of COVID. Before COVID, everything that we did had to be done face-to-face. Then when COVID hit, there were some changes made that would allow for us to continue offering services, and some of them just kind of stopped. You know, I think we're destined to be in a virtual world for at least the rest of this generation, and who knows beyond that. But we now offer pretty much any of our education programs online. I'm going to focus on just some of the key ones. Prime for Life, Botvins, which Donna has already talked about, In Depth, and then our overdose reversal training that we do, that a lot of organizations are now doing. The first program, Prime for Life, is an evidence-based program, and it's listed on the NREP list of national evidence-based programs. And technically, the NREP list is obsolete now. It's not changing. It just kind of stuck a few years ago, and SAMHSA has not been continued to update it. But it has been around for about 30 years now, and it is a 4.5 to 20 hour program. The 4.5 to 6 hour program is a universal program that we could go into a health class and deliver to 20 kids in a classroom. And then the 6 hour program, the 5 to 6 hour program, can also be done with a selective audience. And a selective audience would be that group of people that has demonstrated high-risk behavior related to substance misuse. And many states now use Prime for Life as a means for anyone who gets a DUI or an OUI to get their license reinstated. So it's used nationally. It's actually used internationally, both for prevention, early intervention, and then also as part of a treatment option where counselors would administer the 20-hour program. So Prime for Life is kind of a different education program. It's very subtle in the way that the message is delivered. And the goal is to just kind of alter the participants' attitude toward substances, and at the same time promoting subtly abstinence, and then identifying what high-risk behavior looks like related to substance misuse, and how substances, especially alcohol is still the number one drug that's misused in a lot of places, especially northern Michigan. But to show what low risk could look like with alcohol. And once they see the ability to use alcohol in a low risk manner, it makes a little more sense, I think, to them in looking at other substances that don't have a low risk amount. We still don't have a low risk amount for marijuana, even though it's been legal now for, 15 years. Illicit substances, obviously, because no one knows exactly what's in it. And then prescription drugs, misusing another person's prescription drugs. So it's one of those programs that you can see the light go off in a lot of people when they get this information. They get it. But what I see is how difficult it is, especially for teens, to go back into their old environment with this new information, and it's difficult for them to align their knowledge that they now have with the influences that they have in their environment. Another thing that I've noticed a lot more lately than 10 years ago is the acceptability of substance misuse within the family. That with the legalization of marijuana, it's not uncommon for there to be a belief in the family that there's a right way to use marijuana. And so that's something that is passed on from generation to generation in the family on how to use marijuana the right way. So do you have any questions about Prime for Life? It's both in a universal setting as well as a setting for those who have demonstrated high-risk behavior. Most of the referrals that I get for the program are either from assistant principals in the schools for students who have brought substances to school or have used substances on school property, as well as juvenile court officers. So officers.
So Linda, what would you do with a student who's using too much marijuana, whose parents are using marijuana constantly? Do you ever chat with the parents, or is there a program for the parents, or is there usually total denial that it's an issue?
Usually I work through my contact, either the principal, assistant principal, counselor, or the juvenile probation officer. And they 100% of the time so far have already been aware of that situation. With the courts, I also do a program, Botvan Parenting, that is designed for parents of students in 6th through 9th grade, but it can be adapted outside of those parameters. And that is a 6 to 9 hour program where we look at some of the same information, same but different information, and how it relates to their relationship with their children, and why it's important to separate themselves, even if they're misusing substances, why it's important for them to separate themselves from the belief that there is a better way or an okay way for their children to use substances. So it's so far I have not had any parents from students, teens that I've had in any of my programs. These have been referred a lot of times through Child Protective Services or even through the prosecutor's office. So it's kind of two separate things that I've got going there. I haven't been able to work with a family unit. There's another program, Guiding Good Choices, that is an evidence-based program that does a really, really good job of working with the family as a unit. And it is also approved for prevention, but it's generally when students have demonstrated high-risk behavior that they've come to this program. It's not really I haven't seen as it used as a universal program, but I'm sure it could very successfully be used as a universal program if you could get the buy-in from the families to attend it. Any other questions?
You can go over the Natural High program that we're doing in Kalkaska.
Sure, you want to do that since you're doing it?
Well, the Natural High program, we don't have a lot of time with our alternative ed kids, so it's a great program to be able to deliver in a short period of time, and it's just a really short clip someone like a professional surfer or a basketball player or a musician, and it's just someone, and they talk about their, the excitement of their natural high, which is usually their sport or their musical talents or whatever, and how they were able to, even though they faced adversity, or by being offered substances, how they were able to not use. So we watch this clip, and then we'll have a discussion. There's certain discussion questions, and we'll have a discussion on their natural high. And like, what was it? Yesterday, I went in, and there's certain activities. We just did an activity, and all the kids drew their natural high, and they had a discussion on what their natural high was and how it made them feel. And it works great with our programs with the Kalkaska Conservation District, because we do a lot of outdoor activities, and even musical arts, so we kind of trying to rebuild self-esteem and get our kids to recognize their gifts and to use those and to focus on those as a way to cope with anxiety and depression, rather than using their substances. So we just like to build on that natural high of theirs.
Yeah, and it's a great program for anyone. Anyone can access it online at upnorthprevention.org. And I would think it would be a great conversation starter for parents with their, tweens and teens, to talk about substance misuse and looking for that natural high. I think a lot of kids that come to my programs don't have a lot of life experiences outside of their immediate family and their community that they live in. But even in that environment, kids can have experiences that will lead them to that natural high, so that they can have something that they're passionate about other than substances. Really quickly, I wanted to touch on the in-depth program from the American Lung Association. It's a research-based program. It's a 4-hour program that we can use with as a universal program in the classroom, as well as for those who have demonstrated high-risk behavior with nicotine substances. But currently, about 13% of middle schoolers and 31% of high schoolers reported use of nicotine. And those numbers are staggering when you consider 20 years ago, teen smoking rates with traditional cigarettes were at an all-time low of about 4%. So the vape epidemic truly is an epidemic with youth. And I think the Natural High program also does a good job of getting kids to think about think about why they're vaping, and that cycle of use, withdrawal, stress, youth, and then use, withdrawal, stress, and that vicious cycle that they've created for themselves. It's a research-based program. It hasn't been around long enough to have the data behind it, but it is approved for use. And again, it's a very subtle program. It's not a preachy program, but it gives the kids an opportunity to look at their vaping, why they vape, when they vape, and then other options that they can have in their toolkit if they're really wanting to quit, because a lot of kids didn't count on that addiction happening so quickly and not being able to just say, I'm done. So all of this information can be found at our website, upnorthprevention.org. The contact information to register for these programs is on there. We used to put dates and have set class dates for that. But as soon as we would get a date on there, it would fill up. And we put in, we'd have it out for maybe 2-3 months, and they would just fill up so quickly that we were having to schedule additional classes anyway. So we just have the participant fill out a registration form, then with contact information, we set the dates at this end and contact them for the choices of dates. And it seems to be working much better that way. We feel like we're not always scrambling to catch up to get everybody in. So it seems to be working well with our virtual programs. And any of the programs that we offer virtually can also be done in person too, in the local counties. So thank you. Thank you all very much.
Any other questions? It's 10 o'clock.
Thanks, Linda.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you,
all
Linda.
very much.
And thanks, Suzanne.
That's good information. Thank you.